Good morning, everybody. It's Pastor Doug here, and I think most of you will recognize my daughter, Allie, who is the worship director here at Faith Church. And I want to welcome you to another session of Pastor Doug's virtual VIPs. And typically, we would do a Bible study or have a session on something like that. But this week, I wanted to talk to you where I think most of you have heard by now that one of our family's dear friends, precious to our hearts, Rick Muchow, has passed away last Sunday. And I just thought it was important to reach out to all of you and let you know how we're feeling in this time and these moments, and um, how truly upsetting it is to lose a dear friend like that. But also kind of let you know and give you kind of a little bit of a history lesson on our relationship with Rick and when we actually met and how that is going. I had the privilege yesterday to talk with Laura. Got a phone call from Laura and Nolan actually returning my call. And I was very encouraged by how Laura sounded and how hopeful that she was. And we talked for several minutes and basically concluded, and I said, Laura, either we believe in God or not. Either we believe in heaven, either we believe that Rick is there and he's with Jordan and all that, or not. And if we're going to have this faith, these are the times to truly trust that God is doing what he said he was going to do, did provide a place like he said he was. And for me, I choose to feel that way. I choose to believe that. I choose, as Rick's famous song, one of my favorites that he wrote was, I choose to trust God and depend on that. And I've asked Allie to join me today because, to be quite frank, in the training that Allie's been doing, being trained in her worship leader training, has been coming from Rick Muchow, and it's been a monthly training, and she spends, I don't know what, an hour a time on the phone with Rick, and I have personally watched Allie grow as a person, as a worship leader, as a musician through all of that. And I just wondered if she would mind sharing a few words on what kind of influence Rick actually had on her life.
Well, I was just telling the staff here at Faith in our meeting that I can remember being a little girl, like Sunny's age. I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was watching Rick up on the stage at Saddleback in California, and I can still see him, dancing around and leading. And I actually thought to myself, could I ever do that? Could I ever make the band? Would I be a good enough singer? Could I play? Could I do it? Because I just started playing the piano at that point, and really a lot of Faith's structure and what this church is built on is from the influence of Rick Muchow and Rick Warren. So it's such an incredible loss. But there's so much that we've gained from knowing Rick. And, I've gotten to talk to him for an hour every month for the last several years,
Yeah.
4 years. So it's been pretty crazy. But it's just been really just an amazing influence from him, just advice, just mountains of advice, and just a really awesome just guide for us.
Yeah. Just so folks understand, back in the 1990s, business situation for me had changed, and Robin's father in California had an opportunity to do a business deal in California. And we were kind of in between a transition of my work as a family. And Robin and I talked, and we packed up our two little girls and our dog and some of the furniture, and we took off for California. We were going to make it an adventure for. The plan was a 6-month plan to try to help get this business that Robin's dad was working on kind of off the ground. I did some sales and stuff for it. And when we got there, we decided it was going so well, we were going to stay another 6 months. Well, that turned into be a total of 4 or 5 years. But in our process, we were church-going people, and we had checked around some of the local churches, and we got invited to what was then Saddleback as they were forming and really getting started. I think at that time they had 1,000 or so people. They were meeting in a high school gym. And so we went to this gym and just saw this remarkable musician in Rick Muchow. and the band that he had put together, and the music was Christian music, gospel music, but it was lively and nothing against it. You got to understand, nothing against old time hymns and stuff, because I love them. They're dear to my heart. But this was just a different approach to religion. And then this guy gets up to talk, and he's wearing Hawaiian shirts, and he doesn't have any socks on. He's wearing loafers, and just a real neat guy and a matter of fact guy. But he kind of took the Bible and applied it to the modern life and what we're facing. And it was just so influential to me. And what then happened as our business was transforming, so was our family. We decided to move back to Pennsylvania, but this business was doing so well that for 4 years I traveled every month to California for 2 weeks to run this business, and I'd come home for 2 weeks. But when I was in California, my family wasn't there. So I literally spent most of my time with Rick Munchow and got to go to the Saddleback Church. I would go in the morning at that time. Now they're doing 2 or 3 services a Sunday morning. I'd sit there for all three of them. When it was over, then Rick Munchow and I would go to lunch or whatever. I got to go to some of the board meetings that they had, some of the training sessions that they had, and there I am sitting in these meetings, and nobody ever said, "What are you doing here? You don't belong here." But my point is, I got to spend extensive time with these two gentlemen, Rick Warren and Rick Munchow, as they were forming and developing their church. And I look at it as my training. It was my training. It was my education time that God led me to. And then Allie with her musical development, um, the connection then that we made with Rick later on, where he actually came to Faith Church on several occasions to sing and lead, and then work with our worship team, and then the direct instruction that he gave Allie, I think has been an impact on her that there's no words to describe how much of an influence it's been. And I think if you ask any of our worship team, they'll tell you how great a leader Allie has turned out. Allie, if you had to say um, any two things in particular that Rick expressed to you in ministry are needed, what would you say? And I want to tell you, I didn't tell her this before.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't rehearse any
No, it was
answers
a
or
big
questions.
surprise.
What would you say has been the biggest influence that he has had on your ministry?
I think, well, one of the things that really stands out about Rick to me is his kindness, and he had such a tender heart, and he would never say a bad thing about anyone. And I would talk to him a lot about different things happening, not even at church, just in my life, and he would just give really great advice and always just very kind. Um, and then as far as musicians though, he would always share about how to build up the band and broaden everybody's base. And I think we've done a really neat thing. We have Bible studies. We have a band thread that we text every day. One of the band members will take a week of time and text, and I highly recommend that. It really adds just a really neat thing to your day. But Rick, he just had so many ideas, and I have notes from all of our. Every time we talk, I took notes, and I said to my husband, "I'm going to make a book because it's just amazing advice, and there's some things in there that I haven't done yet, I haven't implemented." But I really think he thought a lot of our church. I think he loved the congregation. I really, truly think he loved you guys. And I know he loved our band, and I know he loved us. He's just an incredible guy.
Rick Muncha, I think, was one unusual, special, kind, gentle person. Um, I've got to spend many hours on the phone with him and in person talking about different things of life. We discussed Jordan, for example. Jordan was the actual way Rick and I actually met when Jordan was having his first heart surgery as an infant. And he said something in the church service that day about that, and I was just struck by that, how big a deal it was. And I asked if anybody was going with them to the hospital and how that was happening, and he said there wasn't. And I arranged to meet him on the way to pay for their gas to get there, and then went down and spent a day with him and his family. And how weird that must have been for him. He didn't know who I was, but he welcomed me, and we got to sit and talk, and I got to get closer and closer to him. But a valuable experience, a valuable relationship, an extremely valuable person was Rick Muchow, and I'll never forget him, and I look forward to the day. And I told him, I said this to him a year or so ago, and I said, Rick, someday we're all going to be in heaven, and I want to reserve the spot to play the bass in heaven. And I know, and he's just grinning at me, and I said, look, I know I'm not the best bass player you've ever had, not even close, but I reserved that spot. And he said, you can be the bass player in heaven. That's what he said to me. So I believe that's where he is. I believe he's in no more pain, no more suffering. I believe he's with Jordan, and I think they're celebrating together and looking forward to the time when we can all be together again in that place called heaven. I love you guys. I'm sorry I didn't get into the typical Bible study thing that we did, but I just felt it important that you hear from us and hear from Allie and I about, how we're doing and how things are going. And the song that's playing in the background was one of Rick's most popular songs, and that's what my word is to you today. Trust God with everything and just depend on Him. God bless you guys. I'll see you Sunday. I hope you join us for our service at 10 a.m. God bless you.